Hello, my name is Julia, and this is going to be my third year of college, and it's also going to be my third year going to school full time while also working full time. So, a little bit about me: I commute to school every day, so I drive 30 minutes to school, and then I also drive to work. But, I don't live on campus, so I'm a commuter and I live at my own apartment. So these are my 5 tips to just being able to manage school and work, because working full time and being a student full time is really hard and really stressful. And I know I'm not the only one who has to do it. To be able to afford school and to be able to afford their bills, you have to be able to work full time while also going to school. So these are just my 5 tips to maintaining good grades, because the whole time that I've been in school, I've had a 4.0, and it was really hard to do. But it's possible, and I want to let people know that it is possible. So yeah, these are just my tips that have really helped me get through it and manage it. So our first tip is get a calendar. Any calendar will work. So you can use Google, Apple Calendar online if you prefer online. I prefer a paper calendar, and I usually will just get a regular calendar, one that you'd hang on your wall. You could also do a planner or an agenda. I just like the wall calendars because they're a little bit bigger. And so what you're gonna do once you get your calendar is you're gonna get all of your syllabus from all your classes, and you're gonna literally write every single assignment from that syllabus onto your calendar. And all your tests, exams, anything that you have to turn something in for or study for is going on that calendar, and literally for every class. And you can even add appointments, doctor's appointments, your work schedule, bills you need to pay, anything that you need to remember, because it's going to be hard to keep track of everything. So just write it all in your calendar. It's all in one place, and then that's really easy to schedule yourself around. And then so you don't miss due dates, because that's the biggest thing that's going to hurt your grades, is missing a due date because you forgot to do assignment. Because if I didn't write things down, it's not that I wouldn't do it, I would just forget to do it. I wouldn't not purposely do it, I just would forget. So writing it down, make sure that you do not forget that you have assignment coming up, and nothing jumps up or surprises you. And then constantly be looking ahead at your calendar. So I'm always looking 2-3 weeks ahead to kind of see, okay, what is coming up, what do I need to plan for. And you might even need to take off days for work for school. So be aware of that, to get those requests put in ahead of time. If you have a big, during finals weeks, midterms, it might be worth taking a day or two off just so you can study and you're not as stressed if you can. But having your calendar helps you plan out for that stuff ahead of time, so it makes it a lot easier. But yeah, that's my biggest tip for the calendar, and I could even go make a video on it. I don't have one right now to show you, because I threw mine out from last school year, but I usually color code it for each class. But yeah, going through the syllabus, and then anytime a syllabus changes or assignments added on, go straight to your calendar. Just go straight to your calendar. That's where I start when I go to study, is look at my calendar. My next thing is focusing, and really focusing on school when you go down to study is hard. So what I do during the school year is I actually delete all my social media, and just because I don't if you look at your screen time, a lot of times I'm bad about this. During the summer, I could spend 3 or 4 hours a day on social media, which is not good. So that's 3 or 4 hours during the school year that I could be studying or doing homework. So I just go ahead and delete it all. I don't have the temptation or distraction, because sometimes it's just I put off schoolwork because I don't want to do it so much, and then I'll just oh, let me just get on Instagram or TikTok for 5 minutes, and it turns into an hour. So I just completely get rid of the distraction altogether by deleting it, because when you are working full time and doing school, you don't have time to waste. Every minute, every hour is valuable time. So when you're not in class or working at work, you need to be focused on getting things done, whether that's schoolwork, housework, anything. You don't have the time you would have to mess around. So that's another thing that helps me a lot, stay focused on my homework and my studying and stuff. And then my next tip would be create study places. So I have one in my apartment where I like to just study at, and where is my comfy place. I usually study over here on my couch. I'll spread out all my stuff on the floor, I'll make a list of everything I need to do, and it's like a cozy spot for me to like study and be focused in. There's no really distractions over here for me. Another thing that I do is I have multiple study places. So like when I'm at school, I have a study place. I have a couple places at school where I like to go and study, where I know I can get stuff done. And a lot of times I'll even go to school early, like a few hours early. Like I'll get there right when the building opens up. Like I can get in at 7 a.m. even though classes don't start to 8. There's nobody in there, absolutely quiet, and I go studying. I also have places around like town where I like to go study. Like I like to go to Panera a lot. I like going to coffee shops to do homework and studying. I find that if I go to a place that's not my house, I literally have to focus on school because there's nothing else I can do, because sometimes being at home can be a little bit harder because you want to do something like, oh, the dishes need done, or I need to do laundry, so you're more wanting to do that than write a paper. So I find that if I just go somewhere else, then I can only do school. So it's basically just blocking out all distractions. So I think being able to find spots wherever you're at, like you need to have spots at school, at home, and maybe even at work, depending on what you do for work. Like for me, if I'm on like a break or something, I might do some homework in my car, but I usually don't get breaks, so I don't even worry about that. But just kind of having areas designated just for studying, and just like places you know you can go to get stuff done. Because like trying to find, just studying wherever is kind of hard. Just having a designated area, get your brain in the habit of being like, okay, when I'm in this area, I know I have to study. So that's one of my other tips. And then just kind of like, especially at home, like if when you do live at home and you're going to school, or maybe even at like a dorm, like there's other distractions, it can make it really hard to study. So having those outside places can also help if you can't get work done at home. And then like my next tip would be schedule your day out. So like, you know your work schedule, you know your school schedule, and then schedule the stuff in between. So like give yourself times to study. Like you have to plan it out. Like it's not like if I was just going to school, I could be like, oh, I could study. I go to school and then from like 9 to 12, and then I have the whole day to do whatever. I'll study sometime in there. When you work full time, you can't do that. Like I go to school and then a lot of times I'll go straight to work, or I'll have a few hours in between. Like I need to schedule my stuff out so that like, okay, if I have to be to work by 4, class ends at 12, from 1 to 3, I'm doing homework. Like that's what I'm doing, or I'm doing this thing, that thing. Like I have it planned out, and then the next part would be just like communicating that schedule to like other people that you may live with. So like I live with my fiancé, so like I let him know when I'm planning on studying, so that way he knows that like, hey, don't bother me, don't distract me. Like if you're gonna like, you know, don't be loud. Like, because that's another thing too, living, even when I lived with my parents, like kind of communicating with them like, hey, I'm gonna be studying from 6 to 7 or 6 to 8 tonight, can we try to keep it down? Or so that way everybody can get their loud activities out of the way, so that way it doesn't interrupt you too much. But just communicating that with people, I find helps a lot. Like, hey, like this is what I'm studying, so if you're gonna be vacuuming, can you do that before that? You know, just stuff like that. And then also like take advantage of your, like that plays into that, take advantage of your downtime, which is one that I can be bad about. So like there'll be times where like a class gets canceled, or for some reason your schedule changes and you don't have to come into work an hour later or something like that. You need to take advantage of those downtimes. I used to be bad about that, and it really does hurt when you don't do it, because like if class gets canceled, that's like 2 or 3 hours of work that I could just be getting done. Because like I find if my class gets canceled, then I sleep in. Next thing I know, I've slept in 2 hours and I didn't get anything done. So taking advantage of when downtime like pops up and like those opportunities to do extra stuff come up, like just use it for school to focus on. Like, so if you're not in class that day, you need to actually be doing your stuff. Because that's another thing I'm bad about too, is they'll cancel the lecture and then they'll make a video, and then instead of watching the video during that time, or doing the assignment that they want us to do during that time, I'm doing something else, and then later that night I'm like, why didn't I do that when I had the time to do it? that I already scheduled. So kind of making that schedule and following to it. So that's kind of confusing with the schedule thing, but just kind of knowing what you have to do and when, and just keeping it all in line, and honestly writing it down helps out a lot too. But yeah, keeping your schedules in line. And then my fifth thing would be find time to relax, because I think this is the thing that people don't talk about a lot. I mean, they do, like they always say, oh, don't work full time when you're going to school because it's stressful, and like it is, but the reality is telling somebody not to do it doesn't help, because a lot of times people don't do it because they want to, it's because they have to. So like my biggest thing is staying organized, and then just also, which will help with the stress if you can stay organized, but you know, finding time to relax and like taking care of yourself, because that's the thing that I struggle with a lot, is I get so caught up in work and school that I forget to take care of myself. So really do try to do little things for yourself throughout the day, to keep your stress levels down and just to take care of yourself. And then just like some like bonus tips to like, these ones are more geared towards getting good grades. My biggest tip for getting good grades is literally go to all your classes. Like, do not skip a class. Like, even though you might be really tired, like I close a lot, so I don't get out until like 12, midnight, 1 in the morning. Now the place I work at closes an hour later. So like there will be nights where I won't get home until 2. If I have a 9 a.m., 7, 8 a.m. class, I'm still gonna be there, because when you start missing classes, that is when you hurt yourself the most. A lot of professors, after you miss like 3 times, will start taking like 10%, 50% off your grades, and that is not good. So show up to all your classes and pay attention. When you're in class, be engaged, be focused. That helps with studying. Then you don't have to study as hard because you're kind of already remembering it. You're taking notes so you can go back and look at them. And then if you have any questions, ask your professors, go to their office hours. Like, you don't have time to sit around and be confused. Like, you have to know what you're doing right away. So ask questions and show up. Because if you can do those 2 things and then turn in all your homework on time, you're most likely gonna get good grades. Like, even if you don't get an A+, you're probably gonna get still a decent grade. So that's my biggest tip, is just showing up, because that's really hard too. Like, I get it. Like, when you work full-time and you're going to full-time classes, like, you don't want to get up early in the morning, but you have to. And so just don't let yourself fall into habits of skipping classes. Even if it doesn't seem important, you need to be there. And that will also play into like scholarships too. Like, I found that I've gotten a lot of scholarships just for grades alone, and that helps me out a lot, because like my parents were able to help me a little bit for my college, but I'm paying the rest of it on my own now, and trying to pay for a wedding because I just got engaged, and all my bills on top of that. Like, if I can get scholarships, I take them. So keep your grades up, because that will help you so much with getting scholarships and grants and stuff. So just keep those grades up, and the best way to keep them up is just show up, pay attention, and do your homework. Do it all on time. That's like my biggest tips. And if you're confused, just ask your professor, ask a classmate, ask somebody for help. Do not spend a whole hour being confused when you could have just asked someone and figured it out right away. But yeah, those are my biggest tips. I plan on making some more videos about like school and like working full time and kind of balancing that. There's a good chance I'll probably make a video about the calendar, because that's whenever I talk to people about this subject, that is like the biggest thing I recommend, is just the calendar. Just keeping yourself organized is really hard, but it's so beneficial, because if I didn't have my calendar, I would never know when anything's due. Because a lot of times I'm taking 5 or 6 classes at a time. So there's just so many assignments, so much reading. And that's another thing too, is I'm somebody who never skipped the reading, and it paid off for me. Like, I was able to get good grades because of that, because a lot of the questions on tests are stuff that's strictly from the reading, or there's assignments that go with the reading. So if you don't do the reading, you're really hurting yourself. So I know the reading sucks, but the more you read, the faster you'll get at it. So yeah, don't skip the reading either. Don't skip class and don't skip the reading. Those are 2 things that I see people do the most, and it ends up hurting them the most. So don't do it. And then obviously turning in your work on time will help you get good grades. But yeah, those are my biggest tips. Thank you for watching, and I plan on making some more videos like this. So thank you.